Gretzky, the first Canadian woman in 41 years to win a World Cup slalom.
Well, last March, she won her first. It was her first podium as well. But then she backed it up with this fifth-place finish in RA Sweden. You know, after that victory, it was a little bit, frustrating for her. She felt some pressure. This time now, she's only looking for success. She got it again, the former junior champion water skier.
And on the men's side, they spent most of the year chasing Axel Lund Svindal.
Well, it's kind of interesting to me that the smallest team on the World Cup, the Vikings from Norway, is also the most powerful, led by Svindal, also with Jansrud. They're 1-2 in the downhill standings, 1-4 in the overall. I mean, for Svindal, he just says this is the most comfortable I ever felt. It's the happiest I've ever been, and he is skiing like a champion.
And Ted Ligety of the U.S. laid waste to the competition in giant slalom.
Did he ever? Boy, not only 3 out of 4 victories in giant slalom, but in big margins, 2.7 seconds, 1.7 seconds, and then 2 seconds again, and right here in Alta Badia, the largest margins we've seen in 30 years in the World Cup. He is absolutely amazing, and the other guys will bow to that.
And Eric Gay continuing to lead Canada's Alpine team.
Yeah, he got off to a good start this year. You know, last year in Lake Louise he was 45th. This year he was 6th. Then he had his first podium in Val Gardena, a 3rd. It might have even been better had it not been for the Val Gardena effect, where the course speeds up. It bumped him down a little bit. But the good news is that on a World Championship year, Eric Gay is performing and ready to race every weekend.
So the men's overall standings heading into today's race at Bormio. Svindal 54 points up on Marcel Hirscher of Austria. And the American star Ted Ligety in 3rd, prospering in GS races. Eric Gay, top Canadian in 12th, but ranked number 3 in downhill coming into today's race. And now we go racing at Bormio. The course is special in a lot of ways. One is you can see the finish from the start gate. And the first skier we see today, Sylvain Zurbriggen of Switzerland, as he tackles the Stelvio Korsstad. It's worth wondering what is wrong with the Swiss team. It's been a massive struggle for them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the best Swiss racer is ranked 24th in downhill, Didier Defago. That is amazing. After, last year at this time they had 4 victories, 9 podiums. A lot of those were Didier Kusch, who's now retired, but this year their best is a 10th place. Voigt is out. Janka is not racing here. Defago won this race last year. That's the only bright spot that they have had.
Zurbriggen in the green now as he goes after the lead very early in this race. The key is holding it together over the final quarter of the run where the legs are screaming.
Well, Scott, in fact, they've even brought back retired racer Didier Kusch. He's part of their crisis management team, they call it. He's there to motivate the guys and get them back on their skis again. Well, in this lower part, just look at Zurbriggen's head is bobbing here. Normally, when guys are tired and their legs are burning, you start hanging over the tips. You put pressure on the fronts of the boots because it hurts too much to get in the back seat. That shows how tiring this course is. He can hardly stand up on his legs here.
The Swiss depth really challenged this year with the retirement of DJ Kusch. Beat Voigt's out for the year with a knee injury. Zurbriggen takes the lead by a quarter of a second, but he's just skier number 2. Safe bet that time will be beaten many times over.
Well, they're going to get under 2 minutes today, that is for sure. Zurbriggen is not the best downhiller on the circuit.
Well, Manny Osborne Parody had a spectacular result 2 weeks ago at Val Gardena. He started 38th and finished 7th, so he's trying to build on that, Todd, as he continues his comeback from injuries that cost him the last 2 years of his career and a long flight at the start.
Yeah, you bet it was. And that's the thing I really admire about Manny Osborne Parody is the fact that when he does come back, he is full of determination and confidence. I mean, he's gritty and he's ready to go. This is a guy that is totally committed. And this, he doesn't find it easy to train. The 2 training runs, he doesn't find it easy to go 100%, but on race day, you can usually pull it off, and that looks like what he's doing right now.
Yeah, in the green at the 3rd interval with what is a good-looking run.
Kind of a bad decision right in there, though, to go a little bit too straight right before the flat, and that flat actually comes back uphill at you right before the San Pietro jump, so his time might have suffered along there a little bit.
2 years ago, broke his left leg and tore his ACL in a crash, and it wasn't until the season opener in Lake Louise that he raced again, let it all hang out in Val Gardena 2 weeks ago to crack the top 10 and hoping for a similar result here.
way out wide there. That is also going to cost him a huge radius there as he let his line drift way wide. You know, this part down here is extremely dark. You can hardly see those bumps. So a lot of guys with a little less confidence are going to be letting the course come at them, which is a dangerous thing to do.
Chasing the leading time of 1:59.77. Osborne Parody won't get it, but he is second. And you would think not entirely unhappy with that run time.
No, hats off. Like I said, it's great confidence that he's showing. This is only his sixth race back into his comeback after those injuries, and I think he is doing terrific. The way he really showed a lot of determination, a lot of spunk in these turns. He was really pushing it hard. Tucked a lot of spots where Zurbriggen, the first guy we saw, didn't.
Andre Sporn, a 30-year-old Slovenian skier with one podium finish in his World Cup career, but it was a big one. He was third at Kitzbühel in 06.
Yeah, it's interesting that 4 out of his 10 best results have taken place in Kitzbühel. Just has a good eye for that course, likes the feeling there. A lot of racers like Michael Volkoffer, the Austrian star, who won here 3 times. They like the feeling of this hill. And, you know, it plays to the suits of certain skiers.
Sporn greenlit now as he builds on his lead, almost 4/10 of a second. He's been in the top 10 here at Bormio, got in for 8th here 2 years ago, and created some expectations for this race when he had the 5th fastest time in Thursday's training run.
I gotta say, I'm not really in love with the way Sporn skis. He kind of throws himself around, not very smooth in the transitions, but he does like to put his head down. He knows how to carry speed. Now the real question down here on the bottom is the fitness of the skiers. Once you get down to this, you know, the minute 30 mark, things start happening. Back on the tails, right in there.
Well, looking rough now on the bottom part of the Stelvio course. This is where it gets tough. So very hard to stay in the tuck position.
Well, you know, it's tough to stay smooth and supple on the edges when the hill is just bouncing you around. He's back in his tails there, and way too straight. Now he's back.
Oh, and you could see that
He's
coming.
down, look out. Off the bean heading there, and luckily he didn't get tangled up with that stuff. Well, you could see that coming though, couldn't you, Scott? I mean, he was just starting to lose it. You could just see that his legs were burning as he went back on his tails and wasn't able to recover.
Just nothing left in his legs, but fortunately he avoids getting caught up in the net.
Yeah, that's a bad position to be in back there if you don't have the strength. And, you know, he was on the tails a long way in advance up in that side hill section.
Well, there is a graphic example of how tough it can be on the bottom part of this Stelvio course. So we are early in the 4th downhill of the season, but here's Scott Russell to begin counting down the top 10 sports. Todd, back to Bormio, where there's a lot of skiing history.
Well, you know, when Bormio won the bid for the 1985 World Championships, they set out to build the toughest downhill in the world. And the guys that conquered it, well, they were the toughest team of the World Cup at the time. Pyramid Zurbriggen became the world champion in downhill and in Super G. But the most successful team that's ever raced here over the years has been the Austrians. 18 victories by 13 skiers, several times by Hermann Maier, but then this man in the downhill, Michael Volkoffer, 3-time champion here on the Stelvio track. He loves it every time because it is the toughest. The best can separate themselves from all the rest, and that's generally what happens on this hill.
Yes, the Stelvio course is the Italian equivalent of the Hahnenkamm at Kitzbühel. The finish area at Bormio packed today. Almost everyone hoping for Italian success, and the Italians have multiple chances. First of their number to ski today is Werner Heel, regaining form this season. Started with a 5th place finish in the Lake Louise Super G 2 weeks ago at Val Gardena. 3rd in the Super G there, 6th in the downhill. Serious progress, Todd, for a skier who didn't have a top 10 result last season.
Yeah, you bet. He changed his equipment, he changed his attitude, and the way he's skiing is a world of difference. I'll tell you what, this team is the standout team as far as I'm concerned for this year. The Italians are strong, and they're going to get even stronger. I mean, Werner Heel is only the 3rd best skier on this team, so they're going to come at you today, and I'll tell you, they are motivated.
Heel's first ever World Cup race was here at Bormio back in 01. He was 37th. Clearly would not be happy with that today.
He's actually a better Super G skier. He's had some great results so far this season, including that 3rd in Val Gardena. But, you know, on this hill, it is like a fast Super G on top. Down on the bottom here, if you're not on your edges, you're in trouble, as we've seen already.
Well, 6th and 4th in the 2 training runs here, and Heel's taking risks in this run, leading now by half a second.
There are only two downhills in Italy, back-to-back Val Gardena and Bormio, so they want to make the most out of it that they can. And this team is psyched up. It looks like Hill, I mean, he's standing up a little bit tall right in there, but he's got himself on a good line and really pushing his speed down here.
Quarter of a second lead at the final split. Good form where others have lost it on the Stelvio course. The lead could fall to the delight of the Italian fans, and it does. Werner Heel takes the lead by 3/4 of a second. Osborne Parody drops to third.
Well, that gives him something to cheer about for now. Like I said, there's a lot of Italians coming at you. This was the one mistake right in there. We got a little bit twisted coming on the fall away, got off his downhill ski, but I think he nailed the lower part of this course. It looked like he was standing tall, but he was on a good line and carving about as clean a ski as you generally are able to carve here.
Canada's Ben Thompson was hoping to build on his podium finish in Sochi last season, but he's only been in the World Cup points once, and that's when he was 16th in the Beaver Creek downhill. What do you make of his struggle, Todd?
Well, you know what, Scott? It's not really a lot different than it was last year. I mean, he only started out in the 40s in Lake Louise, and Gardena was 49th. He wasn't very good. And then Chamonix started lighting it up, and all of a sudden Sochi in the pre-Olympic race, he's on the podium for his first time ever. This is a fearless skier, and in talking with John McBride, his coach, he said he just needs specific conditions for him to be able to achieve success.
He says his style is to go for it and figure it out at the bottom. It's a good start by Thompson, but the lead gone now as it's gone from green to red.
Well, the fact is that he's skiing against a lot bigger guys. I mean, he's about 170 pounds. Dominic Paris, for example, he's 231 pounds. If you got 60 pounds more, you're going to go along these flats and the one before the San Pietro jump a lot faster than Ben Thompson.
Good speed, 118K, but trailing now by almost a second.
And anytime you see a skier's helmet rattling forward, you just know that they can't see these little rollers. And that, I think, is why Ben Thompson is standing up a little bit down here. He's trying to make sure he's on the right line, kind of feeling his way down by Braille.
Thompson, though, managing to hold it together on the bottom of the Stelvio. He won't catch Heel, but he's got a bit of time back, and he's third. That drops Osborne Parody to fourth. Werner Heel of Italy still the leader at Bormio.
And very winded at the bottom. You're just trying to keep yourself gathered in front of the crowd at the bottom. I like the way he skied on the bottom turns. I mean, I think he set himself up wisely in a smart run down there.
And now the powerful Dominic Paris of Italy will try to give the home country crowd something more to cheer about. He's big, he's strong, and he's capable of using that strength to best advantage on a grinding downhill like this one.
Yeah, until this year I didn't know that he was the lead guitar player for a heavy metal band. And of course, he's the heaviest, 231 pounds. He's 6'4" though. And I mean, he just towers over a lot of the other skiers. But I like the way he comes down the mountain because he's got the blend of power. It's not all out raw aggression. He's got a good deal of finesse, which helps him in the turns here.
Green lit through the first three splits. His breakthrough finish was in Kitzbühel last year when he was fifth. He's never won a race, but it seems only a matter of time until he does.
Yeah, I think this guy is really going to be a downhill star one of these days. When he starts winning, when he gets the feel of victory, he is going to want it more often. Still looking for his first time at the top of the podium. Now, Scott, this is where he's going to have a big advantage. This flat right across here, he's going to start picking up some time again because he's come into it well.
Just on the wrong side of the clock at that critical split, but he's got the fastest speed to this point at 120K.
I like the way he moved his way back on his skis there, just kind of bounced over those rollers, and now 12 100s ahead. I mean, this Italian team is motivated. This is the race to go, and he has really taken it to this hill.
A betting favorite on the Stelvio course after finishing third in both training runs. Could be better than that today. And Paris takes the lead from his teammate Werner Heel. The Italians 1-2 at Bormio, just the way the crowd here would have planned it.
1-4 4 6
Well, fitness was not a question. I love the way he turned this right-handed turn. In fact, he was so far inside, he had to let those skis go straight rather than bowing it out a little bit. The consequence, though, is he ended up a little low in the fallaway. What you'd like to do is get your line a little higher here so you can keep those skis pointed down the hill. But as I mentioned, 231 pounds, you got gravity on your side, and you just keep trucking down there as long as he doesn't hit the edges too hard. And then down here in the bottom, I mentioned those little rollers. Well, he just shifts his weight to the tail. You see those tips bouncing up, but that's what helps his speed continue going. He's just on a good line. He's using good smart skiing skills down here, and that might be hard to beat.
So Dominic Paris leads. Jan Hudet's getting set to ski, but right now Scott Russell with our 2012 countdown. Matt Price with Osborne Parody right behind him, already changed and out of his race gear. Now Jan Hudet's from the Banff Alpine Racers came into this season with a lot of hope after winning in Chamonix last season, and he's had steady results, Todd, in the World Cup points in all but one race.
Well, Jan Hudet's is always amazing to me. I find he can be off skis, not take a training run, and then he gets on the hill and he looks fresh and sharp. And this is a guy that had a scope on his left knee after training in Chile. He had a scope done September the 20th, so he's been off his skis. He says he doesn't have the mileage in training or in his fitness training, and that could affect him in the lower part of this course.
He is the third Canadian to ski today. Teammates Ben Thompson, Manny Osborne Parody, currently 4th and 5th. Todd, you mentioned earlier that Dominic Paris plays lead guitar in a heavy metal band. Well, Hudet's plays drums in a 4-piece band. Says he was more nervous over a few Calgary Stampede gigs last summer than he is when he throws himself down a mountain at 130 kilometers an hour.
Well, I think, if the World Cup had a jam session, they'd probably have a pretty good band they'd be able to put together, because a lot of guys are pretty musically talented, including Ivica Kostelic, who is not racing today. A lot of skiers not racing because of injuries. And, this hill, if you've got a flaw in your body, a bad back, or a sore knee, this hill is going to help you find it.
Hudet's in the red, but he is close through the first 3 splits.
A little wide right in there, right in the flat, the first part of the flat. He got out in the soft snow on the outside, so that's going to cost him a little bit.
The win in Chamonix last February, his first World Cup win since '07. Especially impressive given he's fought back from multiple knee surgeries. You mentioned one of them, Todd, but he says now his knees are just okay, and there's no way they're not getting jarred on this course.
Well, he's had 6 surgeries on that on the right side. He's even taken his speed training to the road. He's been driving between races in a black Lamborghini with snow tires. Everybody wants to ride in that thing. But slowing up down here at the bottom, this is where the pain and the fatigue start setting in. You can see it just in this body position, these lower bumps.
The gap widening for Hudet's. He won't touch Paris's leading time. He's 1.5 seconds back and 5th, so the Italians still 1-2 with Paris and Heel, and the Canadians, Thompson, Hudet's, and Osborne Parody, are 4, 5, and 6. Christoph Innerhofer, skier number 13. It's been a good day for the Italians, and here is another major hope for them. Innerhofer has one World Cup downhill win in his career. It was here 4 years ago, and his attachment to the Stelvio course at Bormio obvious when he got in for 2nd in both training runs, but this is not a good start for the Italian Todd.
No, and it looks to me like he's pushing it a little bit too hard, like he's trying too hard. He wants the victory too much, and he's making some really silly mistakes. What you end up doing when you really want to have success is you start looking at those tracks and you try and get inside them even though you know better. They're off balance again, hitting a bump you didn't see.
4/10 back at the 2nd and 3rd splits.
Innerhofer is another skier that is down on training times. He had a back problem. He told me at the beginning of the season he only had 25 runs of downhill, 25 runs of giant slalom before the season, which is way less than his normal. He said,
Nearly went down at the speed gun.
Wow, did he ever? And the left ski just got a little bit inside. That was a dangerous one right there.
Trailing now, though, by 0.4 seconds, so he's close. This could still be close to a podium finish.
Well, it's amazing that he's able to carry the speed the way he is. Set up the turn, that right-hand turn, he stood up way tall, really rounded that off before, wanted to make sure of that one. Even with all the mistakes, he's probably going to be pretty close.
Christoph Innerhofer is third, just shy of 7/10 of a second off Paris's time, and now the Italians own the podium. Paris first, Heel second, Innerhofer third. It well may not stay that way, but for now the crowd loves it. Here's Adrien Thiault of France. He's been on the podium once this season in a speed race when he was second in the Lake Louise Super G. Always a contender, but he established himself as a favorite here when he won the first training run on Thursday by almost a quarter of a second. But in yesterday's second training, Todd, Thiault and his teammates took a different approach. They skied some sections and stood up in others.
Yeah, I don't know what that's all about, but it just proves the point of what Phil Mayer, one of my compatriots a long time ago, wanted. He said downhill should be done with no training runs because he thought it took too much time. A lot of these guys don't need 3 training runs or even 2. All they need is one good one. That's all Svindal had. That's all Eric Gay had before their run today. We'll see how that affects them.
Thiault is in the red on the Stelvio course, but close enough that he could be bidding for a top 3 finish.
Well, he's actually better in Super G, but you know, like I said, these turns they're so technical. You have to start them just like you would a Super G or a giant slalom turn. Get on your edge early and ride it out, because with this many bumps, you really don't have time to allow the skis to slide at all if you're going to get back on edge.
We lost more time, so now it's a question of how close he will be to Paris.
Like his tuck down here, he's still got a little bit of strength left in those legs.
Adrien Thiault is fourth, 7/10 of a second back. Italy still 1, 2, 3 with Dominic Paris in the lead. But the crowd at Bormio knows better than to start celebrating just yet, with skiers like Axel Lundh-Svindal yet to ski. Right now, back to Scott Russell and more of our 2012 countdown. Well, the crowd at Bormio couldn't be happier, as their skiers are 1, 2, and 3 currently. Next to go is Johan Clary of France. Always seems to be close to or in the top 10, even though he's never won a race. He was 7th here at Bormio a year ago.
Well, to give you an idea of how bad the Swiss team is doing, even the coaches are starting to bail. The French team just picked up a Swiss downhill coach for the team, and I think he's given them something to really that's really picked them up, because all the French skiers are skiing with more confidence now, and they've got a representative now who's German speaking, which is something different that they've never had before.
This is a good start by Clary, who's green-lit in a run that he hopes will deny the Italians a sweep of the podium.
Well, if there's anyone going to do it, it's going to be him. He's the team captain. He's their top skier. Even he's having a hard time controlling that outside ski. You see that left one is really bouncing around as he hit, and he hit that little roller in there as well, too.
Well, he spent a year trying to recover from the bitter disappointment of the downhill in Val Gardena being called after 21 skiers because of high winds when he had the lead. It may well have been his first World Cup victory.
I don't think the entire team didn't really recover last season, but this year they've come out strong. They've come out as different men, and together they're attacking. He's still got the lead right now, coming across the flats.
And the speed is good, 120K on the bottom. This is about as clean as anyone's been able to ski in this race.
A little bit wild from time to time, but you know, that's what you got to take when you're going this fast. You know, he does ski a lot like Keely. He's got some really good transitions between the turns. Nice feeling with his skis. Standing a little bit tall at the bottom, though.
Lead was gone at the final split, but certainly close enough that Clary could get it back. Oh, and he faded a touch more at the bottom, and Clary is second, leaving Paris in the lead and dropping Werner Heel of Italy to third.
Well, the Italians, the French, I mean, those are the teams to watch out for, the Italians in particular today.
Hannes Reichelt of Austria has one result up to his standards in the 5 speed races so far this season, third in the Super G at Beaver Creek. Otherwise, he's been outside the top 10, and this is a skier who was on the podium 7 times last season. Can he save the day for the Austrians?
Yeah, just 31st in the downhill standings. He's been getting slower. 38th in Val Gardena. But did you see the GS from Alta Badia? I mean, he was number 1 coming out of the start of the first run. He came down with no mistakes. Ted Ligety came down number 2 and beat Reichelt by 5 seconds. Reichelt was just standing there in the finish shaking his head. It was an unbelievable scene.
Reichelt's off to a good start in this downhill, bettering Paris's times at the early splits, and now he's widened the lead to half a second. Mentioned the frequency of his appearances on the podium last season, 3 of them in downhill, to finish 4th in the downhill standings, and he's looking like that skier today.
Well, the Austrians need somebody that's going to pick them up because they're in a bit of a hole right now. There's 10 Austrian skiers in the race today. Marvin van Heek from the Netherlands, who finished 8th in Gardena, is ranked better than 5 Austrians in this race. That's an unbelievable stat.
And certainly not good enough for the Austrians, where skiing is the equivalent of hockey in Canada.
That's right, and think about this. There's only 2 more qualifications for the World Championships. The only guy that's got a ticket there is Marcel Hirscher, the giant slalom specialist. So these guys are really pushing it hard. Reichelt is skiing very well. To have a lead of 0.4 of a second down here and really clean on the edge, really tighten his line right in there. I mean, this is going to be a good run.
It's really tough to make the Austrian team. It usually involves a podium finish if you want to go to the Worlds, led by 0.4 at the last split. And Hannes Reichelt is dead even with Dominic Paris. Dead even. It's a rare tie for the lead, and it could be Austria's first win in a speed race this season. Could also be Reichelt's first ever downhill win.
Well, that's going to be pretty weird if an Austrian gets a first speed victory, and at the same time, the home team, an Italian, gets a victory here as well.
But the Austrians will take a victory any way they can get it right now. Paris and Reichelt co-leaders. But here's Scott Russell as he continues our countdown of great moments in 2012. Swiss and the Austrians.
Well, yeah, all you have to do is have a look at the leaderboard and you'll see that there is no Swiss skiers in the top 10 in the downhill standings, and there's only 1 Austrian. And because the Austrians are having a bit of a hard time, they're taking shots at whoever they can who happens to be winning. And in this case, it is Ted Ligety. They've changed the specs on the giant slalom skis. Ted seems to be skiing at a level that's faster than anybody else, winning by margins like 2.75 seconds. The Austrian president is maybe implying that there's a little bit of cheating going on. I don't know how that's possible. They test the skis every time. I think he's looking for an excuse for the team.
Unfortunately, the Austrians aren't willing to believe that Ligety is doing it on talent. Next of the Austrians to ski on course now, Roman Bauman's got start number 18. He can't be thrilled with his results this season. He hasn't broken the top 20 in any of his speed races.
No, he hasn't done a thing so far this year. But here's a guy that lives down the valley from Kitzbühel, and like all Austrian young boys, his father would have taken him to the downhill race. He wanted to grow up and be a Franz Klammer, be a downhill star. And so his story is kind of interesting. But after that promise that he had as a junior in his first couple of years racing in the World Cup, he's letting it kind of slip away. He's got all the talent, but for some reason it's not clicking inside the helmet.
Baumann, the 3rd Austrian to ski today. His teammate Hannes Reichelt shares the lead with Dominic Paris. And another Austrian major hope, Klaus Kroll, who won yesterday's training run, is 2 away.
Well, a couple other reasons why the Austrian team might be down a little bit. They had one of their teammates fall in Beaver Creek, Max Franz, in the Super G race. He suffered a broken nose and a concussion, so that was a bit of a dangerous race. And, to show you how bad things are in the Austrian team, even Andy Evers, who's been the head coach of the speed team for 17 years, has left Austria. Now he's coaching with the U.S. team. So things really changing there.
Roman Baumann closing the gap now. A half-second deficit is still within sight of a top 5 finish.
Oh, that was a mistake right in there. Really wide, coming into the left-hander. And now he's standing up. He's really searching, it looks like, down here on the bottom. A lot of skiers have looked exactly that way.
And this is where the lactic acid makes it almost impossible to remain in the tuck. Leading time shared by Paris and Reichelt. And the time still stands as Baumann is 5th, 66 hundredths of a second out, but easily his best performance of the season.
Yeah, that's a PB this year for sure. I mean, I guess I need to win. 0.6 of a second is really not that far out.
The overall World Cup leader, winner of 3 of 6 speed races this season, second in 2 others. This is Axel Lund-Svindal. He remains the skier to beat week in and week out. A sore throat kept him out of yesterday's final training run. We'll see now if it brings him back to the field.
I don't think he really cares, Like I said, he is so relaxed, so comfortable and confident. All he really needed was one good shot at this hill to know exactly what's going to be coming at him. He got that shot in the first training run and he skied well. So day off yesterday, no big deal, I don't think.
Close at the start. He'll need all of his fitness and strength now. His best result on the Stelvio course is 6th, which he's done twice. I think we mentioned a few weeks ago that one of his goals this season is to improve on the longer courses like Wengen, and this one, which is 2nd in length to the Lauberhorn in Wengen.
Scott, the way he came through that right-hander and across the fairway was just exquisite. He was way above the tracks, way above Paris's line when he came through there. He was carving a beautiful clean turn, and he was in the tuck. So that was all 3 things that you needed to be in that one section.
Very smooth over the San Pietro jump. Coming up now to the critical split. Still red, but very close.
Well, I don't think fitness is going to be a question, an issue for Svindal. He's been saying all along he's feeling better prepared. Oh no, he's losing that outside ski. Wait, that was a close one in the tail. He's making it exciting right at the bottom, and he's lost some time here.
What a save by Svindal. A lesser skier would have crashed.
Oh boy, but that must have unnerved him a little bit. Back in the tuck again towards the bottom. We'll see how much time it lost.
Gap widened to almost 0.2 of a second at the last split, and at the finish, Svindal could not be any closer. He's 1/100th of a second back and 3rd. A brilliant finish by Svindal to get back over 1/10 of a second, and he may have his 5th podium finish of the season.
Well, that smile is all about what I could have done better in the last 20 seconds of this race to maybe put me on the podium. Look at this. This is that fall away coming in here. Look at all the bouncing around. And these couple little valleys in here, these little rollers, these are what you have to watch out for, because if you're standing on your ski too much, they're going to bend the ski and really make you take off. That's why he lost his ski in that first one and lost it again right in there. It was on his inside ski on his left leg, really trying to pull that one off. And then, of course, once he got back on his skis, he was back on the tails in this turn. Just a remarkable set of recoveries right in there.
Eric Gay skipped the final training run, was battling a fever. He's got Canada's best result of the season, which was that 3rd in Val Gardena 2 weeks ago, to leave him 2 podium finishes shy of Steve Podborski's Canadian record of 20 times on a World Cup podium. But that's not what's on his mind right now. How to tame the Stelvio course is what he's thinking about, Todd.
Well, if he's feeling as bad as I've heard he's feeling with a fever and everything else, I mean, this run could be a big mistake. He's third in the downhill standings. He desperately wants to stay there. He wants the points. That's why you're seeing him come down the mountain. But I think everybody knows themselves, if you've got a cold, you don't focus as well, you don't see as well. Speed coming at you, these gates coming at you 70 miles an hour are going to feel a lot faster to Eric Gay right now. And the deficit mounting in the red at the first 3 intervals, and now trailing by 3/4 of a second. He doesn't look as aggressive as he normally does. Have to assume it is the flu or fever that has Gay looking like he might be happy just to get to the finish. Well, listen, these guys are in airplanes all the time. They're traveling all the time. They're picking up stuff, you know, germs, and it's tough to stay healthy. It really is. And in a long season like this one, that is of premier importance to these skiers. Yeah, he's got a really high tuck. See that across the flats there? He's losing energy, losing strength. 1.3 seconds, another 0.6 of a second gone since that last intermediate time. This is a struggle, and you know, this is when mistakes happen. He's doing the best he can here. He's standing up, but he is barely hanging on to the line of 1.5 seconds off the pace. The reigning world downhill champion from Garmisch and on the Stelvio course, and he will not be a factor today. The deficit growing all the way down the course, and at the finish, the deficit is over 2 seconds, and Eric Gay is 16th. Well, this is a big event skier. They need him for the World Championships, and I'm glad to see him down in the finish line unharmed and relatively healthy. Probably just one skier left who can upset the podium. That's Klaus Kroll of Austria. He's a powerhouse. He skis when we come back. But right now, back to Scott Russell. Austria's Klaus Kroll is the reigning World Cup downhill title holder. He won the title on the strength of 6 podium finishes, including 1 at Bormio. Kroll will be a medal favorite in the Sochi Olympics in a little over a year.
Ready and on course is 30-year-old Klaus Kroll of Austria.
It was my biggest goal, I think, in my career to win the global. So This is a very high step for me. And I was fighting, I think, 10 years for this. And so I was very happy, for sure. It was in my home country, and I was in Schwabing, the finals, so it was very special for me.
Good speed, 146 plus.
My strength, normally my speed, I can make very good speed, and also the jumps, I like the big jumps, so I'm also very fast in the jumps.
0.02 of a second ahead, Eric Gay.
The Canadians, so this is Eric, I know, especially for the World Championships, I think he's one of the biggest favorites. And yeah, Jan Hudek also winning some races. I think we are in a good shape, and looks really good. Also the younger guys will be very good this season.
Road to the Podium, brought to you by Audi, Vorsprung Dorp Technique.
And Bormio is a downhill that suits the powerfully built Kroll. He was third here last year, second 4 years ago, and 3 times he's been fourth here. Austria's best downhiller skiing under a bit of pressure, although it could be less now that Hannes Reichelt shares the lead in this race time.
Well, I don't say this often, that the Austrians only have one man in the top 10 of the downhill rankings, 7th, and it's this guy right here. I mean, this is the last chance, I think, to change the standings, at least on the very top. It's amazing to think that Kroll is skiing that well. He's still got that broken bone in his right foot. He's using stiffer boots to try and limit the flex, but it really hasn't changed the way he skis. In fact, I think he's skiing even better now with the different equipment.
Deficit mounting almost half a second now. He suffered that broken bone in a motocross accident in the off-season. It cost him valuable training time.
Yeah, when I talked to him in the fall, he said that was really costly because he still wasn't able to lift weights, he wasn't able to run. It's been very tough for him to stay in the top level of fitness that you need on this hill. This guy is really fast on the flats, though, so when everybody else, starts losing time in these little straightaway sections like this is where Kroll really starts making things up.
There's that critical fourth split, and Kroll has gained about 0.4 of a second, so this will be close.
Well, I think more than anything, he is determined. Look at that, 0.2 of a second now. He is determined to get a victory here. He wasn't happy with his third last year. Thought he should have won. Made a mistake near the bottom. He's been fast in training. He's got every reason why he should be on the top after this run.
Was in the green at the last interval. Will it be green at the finish? Klaus Kroll is 2/100ths of a second back and fourth. How can you be 2/100ths of a second back and not on the podium? Have you ever seen a closer race?
Well, I think he's trying to come to grips with that as well. He's looked up there and he's trying to figure out, okay, 2/100ths, fourth? What? I don't really get it. Well, he did all he could on the run. I mean, it was a tremendous run. Klaus Kroll's specialty is skiing on rough snow and icy conditions. He is a real bulldog, and he just powers through these bumps and rollers here. I mean, he skied the way he had to. Normally, that would be a winning run, but not today.
He really put it together on the bottom of the Stelvio course. Ever so close, nonetheless, fourth. So 3 on the podium at Bormio, but 2 are on the top step. Hannes Reichelt with his first ever World Cup downhill win. Same for Dominic Paris of Italy. In fact, his first ever World Cup win in any discipline. 3 Canadians in the top 20. The overall standings then, after 4 races, Svindal widens his lead over Marcel Hirscher, who does not ski the speed events. Eric Gay was 12th before today's race, but with his 24th place finish, drops to 16th. Let's hear from today's winners.
That is amazing. I ski very good. I try my best, and now it's my first victory. That's amazing. It was hell right down there. It doesn't matter that I have to share the victory with Dominic, because if you are 200ths more slowly, then you are not on the podium, and that shows very close that the athletes are in the finish area.
And Ben Thompson, the top Canadian today, with significant World Cup points for his 15th placing, his best finish of the season.
The first 2 training runs are a bit of a wake-up. It's definitely a leg burner. and it's really dark, really icy, really rattly, you know, right up my alleyway. But when it comes down to race day, it was so bumpy, and you know, when I was crossing the finish line, I couldn't really see, and I just remember thinking back on my run on how little I actually saw of the course, and it was just a wild ride, and it was exciting.
Again, Thompson winds up 15th. So, Todd, high drama at Bormio, where there is, on one of the longest and most challenging downhills, little separation among the world's best skiers.
No, that is really unbelievable. I mean, this course usually yields huge margins in the top three, and this time only 4 100s in the top four. But, you know, that's one of the surprises of the World Cup.
All right, a rare tie for a World Cup win between Paris and Reichel. Hope you've enjoyed World Cup skiing on Sports Weekend. Now to Scott Russell.